Apple Pay is getting some real competition with Google's unveiling of Android Pay. Is this going to change the game for mobile payments? I'm joined by Ed McLaughlin, Chief Emerging Payments Officer for MasterCard. A title, by the way, we'd not have heard of five years ago, right? Emerging Payments Officer. It's a great title for these times. You've had experience with Apple Pay, obviously. Absolutely. So what is MasterCard expecting in terms of transactions now with Android Pay?
Well, what we see happening is this is a great expansion of the reach of what we can do with mobile payments. So with the launch of Android Pay, there are literally hundreds of millions of handsets which will now be enabled for payment that weren't before. So what this allows us to do is if you're a MasterCard consumer, whether you have an iOS device or an Android-based device, you can get safe and secure payments for that. So we think it enables a lot of choice. It expands the reach of the payments that are out there. So we think it's going to drive a lot of growth.
Can you quantify it at all?
Not yet, and this is where we're still early days. We've seen a couple things that are important though. So MasterCard contactless transactions, when you do that tap in the store, that we've done for a long time. It's rock solid technology. And what we've seen is when people tap 2 or 3 times, they don't go back to their prior behavior. And that's how you know it's better. That's how you know it's faster. And we have countries around the world. The US is really just catching up to this. So if you look at Canada or Australia, over 20% of all MasterCard transactions are already contactless. And in fact, in Australia, for transactions under 100 Australian dollars, more than half are contactless. And that's because it's just easier to tap and go.
So do you think that you'll have to sell this on your consumers or your customers, or will you let them kind of find their way on their own?
I think people are going to embrace it. I think they're going to find it, right? It'll become part of the experience of setting up your your smartphone. So you have a browser, you'll have payment applications, and I think this is now just becoming part of the devices we have. So one of the things we talk about is we move from sort of the offline and the physical world to our lives being these connected devices. Well, what do people do? You'll use it for commerce. So we've talked about tapping in a store. There's also great things with in-app payments. So you think in New York today, I can tap to get out of a cab. I can, with one touch with an Apple Pay or an Android Pay or a MasterPass, pay for a cab ride through an app that I'm using for that. So both work.
I'm wondering, does it impact your business at all on a cost basis? Are the transaction costs the same for a merchant, for instance, whether it's mobile or in the store?
So that's very important to us. So whether you're using an Apple Pay and Android Pay, it's a genuine MasterCard transaction. I like to talk about it. We take the chips off the cards and we use the chips in the device. But for a merchant, they already know how to handle the transaction. That's why out of the box an Android Pay works at millions of merchants around the world, because it's already working the way that MasterCard transactions work. So merchants don't necessarily have to change anything, but now they can offer all sorts of new shopping experiences to their consumers.
So one day we'll stop asking about security with mobile payments. This will not be the day, because listen, people are still worried about security.
Yes.
And it's been a hard issue for your industry to kind of get out in front of. People just would rather hand it to a person in some cases than to put the card somewhere. So
you've actually hit one of our greatest passions, and we have a mission at MasterCard. We're making the digital ads, we're making it more secure than anything we could do in the physical world. Because if you think,
what do you mean by that?
Well, if you think about it, rather than a piece of plastic, I now have a $700–800 device that you can communicate with in real time, that we can use the chips inside the devices for sophisticated cryptology for that. So just like in the US, now that we're joining the rest of the world and having secure payment chips on the cards, we can take the same methodology, the same security and cryptology, and do that off of the handsets too. So it allows the digital, like I said, to be as secure as what we can do with the plastic cards in the world today. And then we can add things like biometric authentication, like messaging and communication, so you can know in real time when transactions hit your account. So we think all of those things will make it much more secure. Now you're right, for consumers, anytime you go into a new environment, you worry about that. But the good news is we can actually make it better.
Ed McLaughlin, whose title I love, Chief Emerging Payments Officer. Good to talk to you.
Great talking with you.
I'm Rhonda Schaffler for The Street.